tonight on Y News. The government formally terminates the implementation of the Joint Agreement on Safety and Immunity Guarantees, or JASIG. Department of Justice will order the inclusion of NDFP's consultants to the immigration watch list.
President Rodrigo Duterte orders the transfer of over 300 Erring policemen to Basilan. The Department of Energy is planning for measures to spare consumers from power rate hike in line with the maintenance shutdown of the Malampaya power plant.
Y News begins now.
From the UNTV News and Rescue Command Center, this is Y News with Angelo Castro III and Darlene Basingan.
Good evening. The Philippine government has terminated today the Joint Agreement on Safety and Immunity Guarantees, or JASIG, with communist rebels. Government Peace Advisor Secretary Jesus Dureza confirmed the termination of the JASIG through a letter addressed to NDFP Chief Political Consultant Jose Maria Sison and NDF Panel Chair Fidel Agkawili. JASIG, signed in 1995, grants members of the National Democratic Front involved in the peace talks the immunity from arrest. The military declares an all-out war against the New People's Army, according to Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
There are almost 5,000 members of the New People's Army, the armed component of the Communist Party of the Philippines, the subject of the law enforcement operation of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana says they will run after them to stop them from their illegal acts.
They are considered by the President already as terrorists. We also consider them as terrorists. The NPA will threaten those businessmen and also get money. That's extortion. So we will hunt them down.
Secretary Lorenzana says they have yet to arrest NDFP consultants who are released temporarily for the peace negotiations, but are ready to do it upon the orders of the President.
We are just following the order of the President na pag dumating sila rito, pag nakita sila, they will be arrested. That's why I've talked to Secretary Dureza. Sabi ko, kung pwede yung mga nandyan, they will turn themselves in so that they will be treated accordingly, na hindi yung habol-habulin sila.
The Secretary, on the other hand, has no idea if all the 21 NDFP consultants freed temporarily are already here in the country, such as Benito and Wilma Tiamson. He also denied reports that the military wants to sabotage the peace talks of the government and the leftist group. Meanwhile, some relatives of the political leaders and human rights violation victims went to Malacanang this morning to appeal to President Duterte not to scrap the peace talks. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines will enforce focused military operations against the New People's Army, which the government now considers a terrorist group. Brian De Paz will tell us why.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, starts its military operations against the New People's Army, or NPA, following the government's declaration of an all-out war against the communist group. AFP Public Affairs Office Chief Colonel Edgar Arevalo says they will conduct focused military operations against the NPA.
This, much as it was called all-out war, we are going to be surgical, we're going to be deliberate, these operations will be planned. What we are targeting are only those members of the New People's Army who would not want peace to prosper.
Meanwhile, the AFP says they remain open to whoever wants to surrender.
For those who are willing to surrender and for those who would want to go back to the folds of the law, we welcome them and we even encourage them, because government programs await them.
2 members of the NPA have already surrendered to authorities, while 2 others were arrested since January. Despite the all-out war against the communist group, the military vows not to neglect its offensive against the Abu Sayyaf group. Earlier today, 5 members of the ASG were killed during an encounter with the military in Sulu. Brian De Paz, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Aguinaldo.
The Department of Justice will order the inclusion of NDFP's consultants to the immigration watch list. Roderick Mendoza will tell us why.
The Department of Justice wants immigration officials to monitor the overseas trips of the peace consultants of the National Democratic Front following President Rodrigo Duterte's order to suspend the peace negotiations with the rebels. DOJ is issuing an immigration lookout bulletin order against the consultants who were granted temporary liberty to participate in the peace talks.
Yung lahat ng mga members of consultants na nagkaroon ng bail because of the peace process, maglalabas kami this afternoon ng LBO.
President Duterte has already ordered the arrest of 19 peace consultants, including couple Benito and Wilma Chamzon. But Secretary Aguirre says they can only be arrested if they violated the bail conditions. He adds that the Duterte administration is yet to come up with a final decision on the peace process and the arrest of the consultants.
Dapat watchlist muna. So yun lang. Pwede kasi silang lubas.
DOJ is also likely to file a formal motion before the courts for the issuance of arrest warrants against the NDF consultants. A lawyer for the consultants, Attorney Edre Olalia, previously said, if at all, only the courts can order the arrest of his clients. Roderick Mendoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Ariel Arbitrarios Campo questioned in court the legality of the commitment order issued against him. Victor Cosare will tell us why.
A convoy of police and military personnel brought Ariel Arbitrario from Davao City to the Compostela Valley Provincial Rehabilitation Center in Tagum City, where he will be detained. This was after the Regional Trial Court in Compostela Valley issued a commitment order for Arbitrario following his arrest yesterday at a military checkpoint in Davao City. However, Arbitrario insists that the order is erroneous, which is why they will challenge it in court.
Pinagtataka nga namin bakit may commitment order na wala pa namang revocation noon sa latest order ng court na i-release kami on bail, no?
But while the legal battle is yet to start, Arbitrario has no other choice but to go back to the detention center where he was previously committed before taking part in the peace negotiations. Arbitrario is one of the numerous peace consultants of the National Democratic Front of the Philippines. Meanwhile, Roderick Mamuyak, who was also arrested together with Arbitrario, was subjected to inquest proceedings early today. Authorities say Mamuyak is also the person known as alias Coco, who is the subject of an arrest warrant for murder. They also believe that he is a liaison officer of the Regional Committee of the New People's Army. However, Kilusang Mayo Uno, a labor organization, insists Mamuyak is a staff of the group since 2014 and is not a member of the NPA. They said the move is just to harass members of cause-oriented groups.
Talagang pwede lang nila na makakuha ng warrant of arrest na kahit hindi sa iyo yung pangalan, alias lang, pwede ka nang i-detain, pwede ka nang arestuhin. Kaya alarming para sa mga progresibong grupo.
Later in the afternoon, the case against Mamuyak was dismissed because there is no sufficient evidence to prove that he is alias Coco. Meanwhile, despite the developments, Arbitrario still hopes that the peace talks will still be put into motion again despite the pronouncement of the president to put a halt to the negotiations. Victor Cosare, UNTV News and Rescue, Davao City.
5 suspected members of the Abu Sayyaf group or ASG were killed while one was arrested by military authorities in Sulu this morning. Joan Nano will tell us why.
Members of the Philippine Marines AFP Joint Task Force Sulu clashed with an Abu Sayyaf group unit led by sub-leader Al-Habsi Misaya in Sitio Talok-Talok, Kapual Island in Sulu. One was arrested while 5 were killed on the ASG side, while there's no reported casualty on the part of the military. Soldiers recovered 7 high-powered firearms in the encounter.
Isa ito sa naging target ng ating Philippine Marines or ating Task Force Sulu. So, yun nga, gaya ng nabanggit ko, it was successful. Maayos yung intelligence gathering nila at naibigay yung specific area ng target.
AFP Western Mindanao Command spokesman Captain John Pettinglay says they used air assets and blocked the entire island to capture the fleeing members of the ASG. The recovered cadavers will be brought to the Camp General Bautista in Busbos, Sulu, while the arrested ASG member will be turned over to the police. AFP's pursuit operations against the terrorist group continues in accordance with President Duterte's directive to purge all terrorist groups in Mindanao within 6 months.
Ang presidente natin ay nagbigay ng kautusan ng no-let-up operation against the the Abu Sayyaf group. So, sige-sige yung ating operation sa ngayon.
Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The government is planning to set up military detachments in 2 barangays in Cagayan de Oro City. Monokson will tell us why.
The Cagayan de Oro City Peace and Order Council is considering setting up a military detachment in 2 barangays in the city. This after the council received reports that there are men entering the said barangays.
Kay matud pa nila na mga armado bitaw nga nag-anha sa ilang mga barangay nga ang ilang giingon na sila educational package. Natural tungod kay mga bagong nawong sila nga armado, it caused the evacuation of some of the constituents of said barangay.
The city government must prepare for the possibilities of terrorism attacks, especially that Cagayan de Oro is near Bukidnon, which is known as an NPA-infested area. The city is also near Misamis Oriental and Lanao del Sur. Meanwhile, the Philippine Army 4th Infantry Division in Cagayan de Oro is prepared for the possible attacks of the New People's Army or NPA.
So once we pursue the NPAs, alam po natin maraming maapektuhan. Ngayon na nakikita natin na ganun yung guidance si Presidenta.
Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The House plenary continues its deliberation on the passage of the death penalty reimposition bill. Nel Maribuhok is at Quezon City to tell us why live. Yes, Nel, go ahead.
Darlene, once again, the opposition congressman tried to delay the period of sponsorship in the House plenary for the passage of the House Bill number 4727 or the death penalty reimposition bill. Buhay Party List Representative Lito Atienza asked again the leadership of the lower house to reveal the 3 congressmen who are in the narco list of President Rodrigo Duterte. Majority Leader Congressman Rudy Fariña said that the said names of congressmen are under validation and he calls for a meeting for the authorities tomorrow to validate the list. He assures that he will reveal the names once the bases are firm against the 3 congressmen. The House Majority Leader also warns the opposition congressmen that if they continue to question the quorum, according to rules, after presenting the plenary the 3 congressmen in favor and 3 anti, they can move to close the period of interpellation without accommodating the said 50 interpellators. As the sponsorship speech continued with the 217 congressmen present, the Vice Chairperson of the House Committee on Justice, Vicente Veloso, presented in the plenary the legalities of reimposing the death penalty in the country. He quoted the ruling of the Supreme Court in 1996 on Peoples versus Echegaray.
The forerunner of House Bill 4727 having been ruled by the Supreme Court as constitutional, there is nothing that can be argued against House Bill 4727.
Meanwhile, the Justice Committee Chairman Reynaldo Umali has enumerated the compelling reasons why need to reimpose the death penalty in the country.
First, death penalty is a fitting response to increasing criminality and killings in the country. Second, death penalty is a measure to restore respect for the laws of the land. 3, death penalty is a path to achieving justice. And number 4, reimposition of death penalty is geared towards a genuine reform in the Philippine criminal justice system.
After the sponsorship speech, the plenary proceeded to the period of interpellation, which albay Representative Edsel Lagman stand first. Congressman Lagman raised motion to suspend the deliberation due again to diminishing numbers of congressmen and failed to now to attain numbers required for a quorum. But the Deputy Majority Leader Arthur Defensor insists that the plenary should continue the debates and give chance to discuss the controversial bill. Despite this, the opposition congressman emphasized the rules on quorum and the session adjourned at 6:20 p.m. Darlene?
Thank you, Nel. And that's Nel Maribohok reporting live from Quezon City. The proposed measures to reimpose death penalty in the country face hurdles in the Senate of the Philippines. Joyce Balancho will tell us why.
Senate will not immediately support the passage of bills seeking to reimpose death penalty in the country. This after some senators raised concerns that we will be violating international treaties if we do so. Former Justice Secretary Senator Franklin Drilon and Senator Laila de Lima both reminded the Senate panel earlier that the country had ratified in 2007 the second optional protocol on the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights. Under this, the Philippines agreed not to pass any legislation to reinstitute death penalty. There's also no provision in the said treaty that allows for a party to withdraw from the agreement. While DOJ Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre was not present during the hearing, Senior Deputy State Prosecutor Richard Fadulyon stressed that DOJ pushes for the death penalty as an answer to our drug problem. However, he also admits that he is not sure whether DOJ has carefully studied these treaties before coming up with a stand.
Probably, taking the advice of the chairman, we will raise the issue. I will raise the issue with the Secretary of Justice, pointing and bringing to the table the concerns that were raised on the international commitments that we have.
The Senate Committee on Justice and Human Rights decided to suspend the hearing pending DOJ's clearer explanation on the issue. Meanwhile, Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre in a separate interview says they will submit their position paper to Senate.
Sa constitutional provision natin, pinapayagan tayo na reimpose ang death penalty. So, hindi maaaring mag-prevail ang treaty over our constitution.
Meanwhile, the senators are split in numbers when it comes to their stand in this issue. Some say that death penalty might be abused if implemented in the current judicial system, while others believe it might be used as deterrents to heinous crimes. Among the 24 senators, 11 have categorically expressed dissent to death penalty. 5 senators all pro-death penalty.
For it to have a good chance of passing, I think mas malaki pag-asa nito kapag high-level drug trafficking lang ang ginawa nating punishable by death.
While Senators Coco Pimentel, Sonny Angara, and Joel Villanueva expressed openness to the measure but have strong reservations. Senators Loren Legarda, Miguel Zubiri, and Gringo Honasan have not yet disclosed their stand on the issue. For Committee Chair Senator Richard Gordon, while death penalty bills have already reached second reading in the House of Representatives, these will not be easily passed in Congress, given these important points raised during today's Senate hearing.
Mayroong leeway ang Kongreso na gawin yan, pero ngayon, tila na pusasa ng Kongreso dahil niratify ng same Congress na hindi na sila maglalabas ng death penalty.
Joyce Balancho, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
Next in Y News. The Chamber of Mines sets to invoke the power of the Freedom of Information to compel the release of DENR's mining audit report.
The Bureau of Customs seizes fake phones and gadgets from China at the Manila International Container Port.
Y News will be right back. Erring cops from different parts of Metro Manila have faced President Rodrigo Duterte earlier in Malacanang, where the president made them choose whether to be assigned to Basilan or resign. Grace Casing will tell us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte angrily reprimanded the more than 300 Erring policemen at Malacanang today. He gave them 15 days to prepare, and for those who refuse to be deployed to Basilan, the president says are free to resign.
Hindi ako mag-retraining. Anong retraining ko sa inyo? Tapos na nag-training ninyo araw-araw. If you do not want to go there, go to your superior officer and tell them that you are going to resign. Otherwise, ayaw ninyo hanapan ko kayo ng mali.
The president also warns them to never join or form syndicate groups should they retire.
I will create a battalion para lang to keep track of your movements because it has been the sad experience of this country that the most vicious criminals are karamihan ex-police or sometimes ex-military man.
NCRPO Chief Oscar Albayalde says some of the cops who faced the president today are facing grave charges like robbery and extortion, while others were found to have been recycling illicit drugs and tested positive for illegal drug use. Albayalde clarified that majority of them are just facing minor cases like being late at work, gone AWOL, and going to work only during payday. The 48 Erring cops who failed to appear before the meeting will face charges.
Merong 48 na hindi nag-report. So ibig sabihin may kaso na yon kagad na grave misconduct. Meron ding may court hearing. So pinagbigyan natin dahil trabaho nila yun, mag-appear sa court. So kaya hindi umabot ng 300.
Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
The PNP Counterintelligence Task Force now holds the first list of alleged police scalawags who may face investigation as part of the internal cleansing of the Philippine National Police or PNP. Leah Ilagan will tell us why.
The Counterintelligence Task Force or CITF vows not to tolerate any official or member of the Philippine National Police in its investigation of alleged rogue cops among their ranks. CITF Chief Police Senior Superintendent Jose Chiquito Malayo promised to hold liable rogue cops in order to save the image of the Philippine National Police.
We are law enforcers. We are catering yung violators of the law.
The official refuses to reveal the names on the list but adds that they have committed huge violation and are facing complaints.
We'll be working on those lists. That's why we'll be categorizing and prioritizing those reports. But that will be validated before we'll conduct the proper operation.
Malayo also notes that he has already started meeting with personnel who will conduct counter checks in every complaint they will receive.
Meron na kami mga 70 but more are coming. More are coming at nagre-recruit po kami na iba pang personnel at inaayos po ang pag-vet sa kanila. Nagkaroon ng background investigation.
Malayo is also confident that none of CITF's members are involved in any anomalies due to the strict implementation they must follow before being hired into the group. The CITF has received a total of 50 text messages and 3 walk-in complaints since its launch its hotline number yesterday. Leah Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
Environment Secretary Gina Lopez says the Philippines is unfit for mining, and so she sticks to her decision to close over half of the mines in the country. Jun Soria will tell us why.
Environment Secretary Gina Lopez maintains she will not reconsider her decision to shut down 23 of the country's 41 mines because the Philippines is unfit for mining.
Every time you put up a tailing pond, you're putting our country at risk because one day you're going to leave. And then what happens to us? I'll be so blatant to say the Philippines is unfit for mining.
Recommendations were raised that instead of closure, suspension of operations and payment of fines for environmental violations may be considered. But Lopez has defended her decision, convinced of mining's destructive nature and saying the mine's continued operation would be unfair to future generations.
The mining law says in very specific terms you should not endanger and sacrifice the well-being of present and future generations. When you nuke our rivers and streams and you silt it and you kill our farmlands, you're going against the mining law, and it is behooves on me and it is legally appropriate for me to say stop that right now.
The Philippines is the world's top nickel ore supplier, and Lopez has said that closed mines represent about half the country's output. 3-month nickel on the London Metal Exchange climbed 1.4% to $10,370 a ton on Monday, February 6. The metal hit a 3-week high of $10,500 on Thursday, February 2, when Lopez announced the closures. Lopez launched the environmental audit of the mines in July, initially suspending 10 and saying 20 more were at risk of being halted.
And we will have to detox them forever and a day. Otherwise, we'll have a situation there where it's 0.002 allowable mercury and the mercury level has reached 12 because they didn't detox it. So it's like we have no choice. How is that economically lucid, you know? It's like crazy, right? It's crazy. Why are we doing this?
The country's mining industry body said earlier on Monday, Lopez's decision to close and suspend mines is illegal and unfair, jeopardizing an industry that has paid a large amount in taxes and fees to the government. Jun Suriao, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Chamber of Mines will use the information or the Freedom of Information against DENR over the release of its mining audit report. Ray Pelayo will tell us why.
The Chamber of Mines will insist the release of the mining audit report from the Department of Environment and Natural Resources with the use of Executive Order Number 2 signed by President Rodrigo Duterte in July 2016. The executive order aims to make the government transactions transparent through the freedom of information and gives the public the power to get information from any government agencies. The group says until now, they have not received any document that explains the result of the mining audit conducted by DENR. Secretary Gina Lopez had announced the result of the audit last February 2, eventually ordering stoppage of 23 mining operations and suspension of 5 others. The chamber would like to know what had been the basis of the secretary, especially in shutting down the said mining operations.
Primarily to find out what were the reasons for the suspensions and closures. We have to get that data because as of now we don't have any information regarding the reasons why. In fact, what we have heard is the MGB have their own decisions and recommendations, but these were not entirely followed.
The group also appeals to President Duterte to review the decision of the DENR. The Chamber of Mines says they will remain in operation unless a formal order is issued or DENR decides to show the audit report. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Energy Regulatory Commission or ERC Chairman Jose Vicente Salazar has refuted allegations of involvement in illegal transactions that allegedly drove the late ERC Director Francisco Villa to commit suicide. Nel Maribuhok will tell us why.
The chairman of the Energy Regulatory Commission together with 4 commissioners faced the Joint House Committee investigation in relation to allegations of anomalous transactions revealed in the suicide of former chairman of the Biddings and Awards Committee Director Francisco Villa Jr. on November 9, 2016. Discussed during the hearing were Villa's 3 suicide notes, wherein one of them stated the alleged rigging of the selection process by the ERC chief and favoring Luis Morelos for an audiovisual project. This was after 2 failed biddings on the project that has a budget requirement of 300,000 pesos only. Chairman Salazar admitted that Morelos is his friend but he denied rigging the bidding process. He explains that even the agreement to sign on Morelos as consultant for 50,000 pesos a month underwent consultation, although later the contract did not push through due to other issues.
That arrangement was actually suggested to us by the Bids and Awards Committee, so we accepted it.
Meanwhile, ERC Commissioner Josefina Asirit has stated that Chairman Salazar approached her and asked them to stop the internal probe on Villa's suicide.
But with respect to the ability of the chair to have influenced us or to have stopped us from making an inquiry, yes, there was such an incident when the chair was already on leave.
But the ERC chief says,
because an internal inquiry would be self-serving.
Other commissioners turned emotional and expressed their disappointments with the criticisms they have received over the allegations of corruption.
Afterwards, there was a cloud of distrust in the commission. Why am I saying this?
There is some conflict of interest in the fact that the chairman is at the same time the CEO of the ERC.
If I were the head of an institution and this type of allegations are hurled to us,
The first obligation is to protect my other commissioners because they had nothing to do with it.
The lower house committee will continue to investigate the issue in the coming weeks. President Rodrigo Duterte has already expressed his disappointment with the ERC and asked the higher officials for their resignation. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
The Department of Energy is studying various ways to avoid passing on to Meralco customers the imminent electricity rates hike. John Ana will tell us why.
Rates are expected to increase next month due to the maintenance shutdown of the Malampaya power plant, which started last January 28 and will end next week. Based on Meralco's estimates, customers' power rates will increase by 1 pesos and 44 centavos per kilowatt hour after the maintenance shutdown. This means an additional charge of 288 to 720 pesos in the monthly bill of Meralco customers. Meralco reminds the public and youth to conserve electricity and control use of appliances to prevent a bigger increase in electricity charges.
Medyo wala kang control sa supply at gayon din sa presyo. Ang magagawa mong control is yung sa paggamit mo ng sarili mong mga kagamitan.
The Department of Energy or DOE is still studying the possible ways to avoid passing on to consumers the imminent increase in power rates. This includes the review of some contracts on power supply agreements and continuous coordination with the Energy Regulatory Commission on how to cut down the rates so that consumers can avoid bigger charges.
Pinapatingnan din ni Secretary Cusi kung paano natin mapoproteksyonan yung customer, yung consumer, na hindi niya mapasan yung increase sa presyo. Pinapa-review yung kontrata ngayon kung merong party along the chain na pwedeng magpasa nito at hindi yung customer.
Meanwhile, the Sual power plant undergone an unscheduled maintenance shutdown on Monday after one of its pipeline leak. DOE immediately sent personnel to the said plant to determine its situation. Despite the incident, DOE assured there's still enough supply of electricity and there will be no blackouts. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue, Department of Energy.
The Sandigan Bayan has granted the motion filed by former Senator Pong Revilla Jr. to visit his ailing father in the hospital before and after undergoing a medical operation. Former Senator Ramon Revilla Sr., who is now 89 years old and presently being treated for a coronary heart disease, will undergo a heart surgery tomorrow at St. Luke's Global City in Taguig. Revilla Jr. has been previously permitted by the court to visit his father in December last year when he was suffering from pneumonia. Revilla is presently detained at the PNP Custodial Center due to graft and plunder charges he is now facing related to the pork barrel scam.
The Bureau of Customs is preparing to file a case against a consignee, broker, and importer of fake cell phones and gadgets worth 20 million pesos from China. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
Officials of the Bureau of Customs already opened the boxes from China, which arrived to the country last January 12, named after the consignee Autumn Way. The boxes contain an estimated 400 fake iPhones, 100 fake Samsung phones, fake Samsung power banks, other cell phone gadgets, and even vape cigarettes.
Mga fake iPhones, nakita natin siya, naka-conceal siya sa styrofoam, mga styro boxes siya. Tapos yung mga boxes mismo ng iPhone, nakita naman natin sa bandang dulo. Tapos yung mga charger, nakasiksik sa mga iba't ibang mga boxes din doon.
There are also spare parts like LCD screens of cell phones, which can be used to make cell phones. According to the IPRD, the boxes were suspicious because they declared items in the documents or office supplies, office equipments, and furnitures. BOC is preparing for the cases to be filed against the consignee, broker, and importer of the smuggled gadgets.
Automatic seizure to kasi may misdeclaration dito. We'll file the necessary admin charges against the broker, and in the importer, against the importer, criminal to, smuggling na to, bale. We have placed this shipment under surveillance for a week kasi we got a derogatory information na yung container may mga lamang fake na mga cellphones.
There are also other intelligence reports which are being verified by BOC, stating that there are again shipments which will be arriving in the country containing various smuggled items. This is the reason why BOC is continuing to guard ports to ensure that no smuggled items will be sold in the market. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Bureau of Customs.
Around 1,000 residents of Metro Manila have expressed gratitude to UNTV, Members Church of God International, and partners in public service. Leslie Longbowen will tell us why.
Over 600 Caloocan City residents received free medical and dental services during the People's Day held in Bagong Silang. Among the beneficiaries is 20-year-old Maria Mercedes Ochoa, whose 4-month-old child has been coughing for 1 month. For Maria, the public service was a blessing to the residents in their area.
Maswerte po kami at kami yung lugar namin ang napuntahan. At maraming talagang may sakit sa amin sa compound lang namin. Tsaka sana buwan-buwan meron may umiikot. At para masubaybayan yung mga malnourished na mga bata.
Apart from medical concerns, the group also provided assistance to the residents with legal problems. Among UNTV's partners in the activity are Fatima University Medical Center, PhilHealth, OSCA Caloocan, Pag-ibig Fund, Armed Forces of the Philippines, and Members Church of God International. UNTV's People's Day is held every first Monday of the month. Meanwhile, policemen, members of the media, and their relatives benefited from the medical mission held at QCPD Station 10 in EDSA Camuning, Quezon City. Even residents near the area grabbed the opportunity to consult doctors and avail of free services including tooth extraction, x-ray, and other laboratory examinations through the Ang Dating Daan Mobile Clinic. Over 300 people were assisted in the medical mission rendered by UNTV, Members Church of God International, and National Press Club in cooperation with QCPD Press Corp and Quezon City Police District.
Alam po ninyo, dati po ito ginaganap namin sa sa National Press Club. Pero dahil na rin sa alam naman nating talagang ang gusto ng Press Club at ni Kuya Daniel ay matulungan ng mas marami mga miyembro, nagkaroon po kami ng pag-uusap kaagahan nitong nakaraang buwan na ibaba kumbaga sa mga press corps na mismo itong ganitong programa para mas maraming makinabang.
Quezon City Police District, ako'y labis na nagpapasalamat sa isinagawang programang itong medical, optical mission ng UNTV. Well, andyan ang ating si Brother.
Over 600 Caloocan City residents received free medical and dental services during the People's Day held in Bagong Silang. Among the beneficiaries is 20-year-old.
Salamat sa isinagawang programang itong medical, optical mission ng UNTV. Well, andyan ang ating si Brother Daniel Rason at Brother Eli Soriano, 10 ng kanilang kasamahan dito sa mga volunteers. Ito ay talagang dapat gayahan ng iba pang mga organisasyon na may kakayahan upang tumulong sa ating mga kababayan.
Leslie Longbowen for Serbisyong Kasangbahay.
The longest living fish in a zoological setting is euthanized at the Shed Aquarium in Chicago. Chris Villaruel will tell us why.
A lungfish known as Granddad, acquired by Shed Aquarium in Chicago in 1933. The longest living fish in a zoological setting has been euthanized after suffering failing health in his mid-90s. Granddad, who came to Shed from Australia in anticipation of the 1933 to 1934 Chicago World's Fair, was seen by more than 104 million people during his time in Chicago. According to the aquarium, lungfish, which can live to be more than 100 years old and are a protected species in Australia, have existed for nearly 400 million years, and fossils shows they have remained unchanged for over 100 million years. A Shed Aquarium spokeswoman said Granddad's exact age was unknown, but that he was believed to be in his mid-90s. The aquarium said Granddad was euthanized after losing interest in food and showing signs of organ failure. Lungfish, which are native to the Marion Burnett Rivers in Queensland, Australia, has a single primitive lung and are among the few fish that can breathe air. Chris De Leon, UNTV News and Rescue, Chicago, USA.
A French artist will be living inside an enclosed space for 8 days as part of his unusual project. Gerry will tell us why.
French artist Abraham Poincheval, who tickled the art world by spending a fortnight inside a bear sculpture, presented his 2 upcoming projects, living inside the rock for a week and sitting on eggs until they hatch. Poincheval will live in a body-shaped slot carved out from a limestone rock from February 22 to March 1, eating stewed fruit and purees in a stone equipped with an air vent as well as a personal items such as a logbook.
Il y a des cavités qui permettent de stocker ce qu'est la nourriture, l'eau, tout ça. Et après, la pierre, en fait, une fois dedans, elle se refermera comme ça. Et du coup, j'y resterai pendant une semaine.
Poincheval says he hopes to explore varying concepts of time for different species and natural objects in his performances. He uses the physical spaces in which he encloses himself to escape human time and undertake an inner journey.
C'est d'expérimenter ce temps du minéral à l'intérieur de la pierre. C'est un moment de porosité, c'est-à-dire il y a ma respiration, il y a la pierre qui vit, qui est encore humide parce qu'elle a été extraite il n'y a pas si longtemps que ça de la carrière. Donc du coup il y a ce flux, il y a ce va-et-vient entre moi et elle.
His next feature will be to mimic a hen by incubating eggs until they hatch.
En fait, par ma propre chaleur, en fait, grosso modo, je me transforme en poule.
Poincheval has already spent a week in a hole underneath a bookshop in Marseille and was buried under the square in front of 2 Town Hall for 8 days. Gerry, UNTV News and Rescue, Paris, France.
Tom Brady is surefire Hall of Famer when he retires from the sport. Meanwhile, Cameroon fans celebrate for their team's victory. Aaron Romero will tell us why.
Vincent Aboubakar scored a diligent late goal to give Cameroon a 2-1 conquest over Egypt to claim his side's 5th African Nations Cup title in the final held in Gabon on Sunday. Cameroon came from a goal down after midfielder Mohamed El Neni had put Egypt ahead midway through the first half. This triumph is Cameroon's first title since 2002. For this win, Cameroon, dubbed as French Les Lions Indomptables, denies Egypt a victorious return to the tournament they last won in 2010. In NBA, New Orleans, Louisiana hosts this year's All-Star NBA Games. The much-awaited 66th NBA All-Star Game between the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference All-Star teams is set all on February 19 at the Smoothie King Center. Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry, Anthony Davis, and James Harden will start for the West, while DeMar DeRozan, Kyrie Irving, LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Jimmy Butler are the East's first 5. Golden State Warriors head coach will lead the Western team, and Brad Stevens of the Boston Celtics will draw the plays for the Eastern team. And in Super Bowl 51, New England Patriots quarterback Tom Brady defines the meaning of being the greatest player in the history of the National Football League after leading his side to a momentous win against the Atlanta Falcons in Super Bowl 51 and takes home the honor as the most valuable player in the league for the 4th time.
It was just a great team performance, so I'm so proud to be a part of this team. We faced a lot of adversities over the course of the year and overcame it with a lot of mental toughness, and it was just a great way to really culminate the season. We've gotten to this game before and not finished it off the way that we wanted, and it took a kind of a miraculous effort to do it, and just so happy that we were able to get it accomplished.
Brady becomes the second oldest at his position to win the NFL's biggest prize. Looking as tough and strong as he is, at 39, he has no plans on retiring. Although it is a surefire, the MVP will add to the list of Hall of Famers when he does leave the sport for good. Aaron Romero, UNTV News and Rescue, New York.
Japan awards manga prize to French, Chinese, Italian, and Vietnamese artists. Nino Armilio will tell us why. Japan's 10th Annual International Manga Award, hosted by the Japanese Ministry of Foreign Affairs, was held on Monday at Tokyo's Meiji University, awarding manga artists from all over the globe.
今回の受賞をきっかけに、それぞれのお国において漫画のさらなる発展と漫画を通じた国際交流に貢献をしていただければ幸甚であります。
The award was established in 2007 by Japan's current Minister of Finance, Taro Aso, to spur artists worldwide to express themselves to the style of manga. 10 bronze awards were given to Indonesian, Polish, Korean, Taiwanese, Spanish, and Thai artists. 3 silver awards were given to artists from China, Italy, and Vietnam. And the first prize award was given to French artist Xavier Dorison for his work The Master of Arms.
Je suis bien sûr très ému aujourd'hui. C'est une très belle récompense pour Joël Parnotte et pour moi. C'est un grand honneur. Je vous en suis infiniment reconnaissant. Arigatou gozaimasu.
The Master of Arms is set in 1537 France and tells the story of 2 Protestant men being hunted by members of the Catholic Church for attempting to bring a French translated Bible to Switzerland to be printed and distributed. Dorison is also a fan of Hayao Miyazaki. 296 manga entries were submitted from 55 countries this year. Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines. Broadway actress Lea Salonga is proud of the support of her Filipino fans, especially during her concert at the Sydney Opera House in Australia. Nicole Reyes will tell us why.
It was a really great crowd and so it felt like a really wonderful interaction, and they laughed at jokes, they really responded to the music that we were playing, and by the very end with the second encore, people were up on their feet and just dancing and singing. And
during UNTV's exclusive interview, award-winning actress Lea Salonga is more than excited as she narrates her experiences during her concert at the Sydney Opera House here in Australia. Along with Lea were the Sydney Symphony Orchestra and her musical director and conductor Gerard Salonga. Her supporters are equally delighted after seeing and listening to one of Filipinos' pride, Lea Salonga.
It's very nice, and it's sulit ang bayan. And then I wish more song. Magaling pa rin siya hanggang ngayon. Magaling yung mga kanta niya. 11 years na kami dito, ngayon lang kami nakapanood ng concert niya.
The Broadway actress also shares her views on her career and gives pieces of advice to those who wish to succeed in life.
that is the best thing that any performer, actor, actress could ever hope to achieve. That you look at everything with, with not being too serious about everything and having a sense of humor and not taking things too seriously. Then that's probably the biggest achievement of my entire career, that I can laugh at everything.
After the opera concert, the actress is now preparing for her birthday concert in the Philippines. And as a Filipina, Lea is very proud of the new Filipino singers showcasing their talents in singing.
So I'm proudest of other people's achievements when I see another generation of performers, like younger than myself, that are doing extremely well and who proudly say that they're Filipino.
She also expresses her heartfelt thanks to her fans, especially to her countrymen.
Lea will be performing songs she made famous such as Reflection from a Walt Disney hit Mulan, as well as hit songs from A West Side Story, A Little Night Music, and Frozen. Nicole Reyes, UNTV News and Rescue, Melbourne, Australia.
Those are the reasons behind the news. February 7, 2017. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Reasons we delivered to you as they unfold. I'm Darlene Basingan.
Because we need to know. We will always ask why. Thank you for watching. Why News.